All right, I am live. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first ever debut episode of the Big Red Nation stand up. I don't know, maybe I'll hold this up here, get a better sound of my voice. Welcome. Anybody hear me? I don't know how to do this. As far as does that sound better? I know this is my first episode, so there's going to be nobody in the chat. I'm doing a live thing right here. So I'm going to hold this up. So welcome to the first episode, debut episode, whatever you want to call this, of this channel called Big Red Nation. My name is Jason. As you can see behind me, I got a ton of Husker stuff, memorabilia, whatever you want to call it. This episode is just kind of get started. I'm going to do a lot of live shows. I'm not going to do recorded shows because I'm not good at editing. I'm not good at doing a lot of that stuff. So I'm just going to do a lot of live streams. Going forward on once the season gets started, Thursday, Fridays, kind of depending on my work schedule, will be whenever I do a live stream about that weekend's game. So coming up, we got Cincinnati. We got the Bearcats. It's going to be on Thursday night. So I'll probably do that on the Wednesday night before. That'll be a live stream, kind of previewing that show or that game, previewing that opponent. I'm already starting to watch some podcasts on YouTube. I'll go over some like Phil Steele stuff. I'm going to try to really dive hard, really research a bunch of stuff. I'm going to watch a bunch of, YouTube shows, podcasts, listen to podcasts, all that stuff for the Bearcats. And then going in every week, that's kind of my thing, is I'm going to really dive into each opponent whenever I can. Hold on. There we go. Is that better? All right. Started sounding like it's way too loud. So anyway, that is my goal. Is every week I'm going to dive hard into the opponent, go over those opponents week to week. Probably the Sunday, Monday, somewhere in there. Going forward, I'll give my reaction to those games. If luck happens to be bestowed upon me, and I can do it Saturday night after the game, hey, I'll let you know. I'll throw that stuff on YouTube or on X. And I'll try to let you guys know. I've got a toddler, so a lot of times my wife works like late those days on Saturdays, so it's gonna be doubtful that I'll ever get on here on a Saturday night right after the game and do that. But you know what? To be honest, that's awesome because I feel like there's enough right after the game, right? So especially for hardcore Husker fans, not only if you live in the state, right, can you get those Big Red overreactions. What else is there? What are all the call-in shows? I mean, there's Big Red overreaction, there's Big Red reaction, and then there's something else too. So but think of like Hail Varsity, the 1620 The Zone, in Omaha, and then 97.3 The Ticket, I think, are all of them. So there's plenty of right after the game reaction places that you can go to, whether you live in the area or you don't. Like myself, I don't live in the area. I live in Missouri. I've lived in Missouri since what, 96? Yeah, I lived in Missouri since like 96. I remember as a little kid watching us annihilate Florida in the 95 Fiesta Bowl. I don't care. That's how I identify with it. I think, to be honest, I think if you happen to be a certain age, okay, that's how you identify with those. So I call it 94 Orange Bowl, 95 Fiesta Bowl, 97 Orange Bowl. Okay. That's how I identify with it. Okay. Because when I was so young, I think that's just how you identify with it. I know that's kind of like a weird, uh, polarizing, I guess, identifying argument, if you will, amongst Husker fans that like, no, it's the 95 Orange Bowl. Well, it was 94 season, but the 95 Orange Bowl. It was the 95 season, but the 96 Fiesta Bowl. Like, yeah, no, technically, sure, by a day. A day. So, um, so I think I was just young enough that makes that okay. But anyway, now my name is Jason. Like I said, I'm gonna start this channel, Big Red Nation. I was trying to think of a name for a long time, and for a long time I thought it was gonna be Through These Gates. And then randomly I was watching a podcast and somebody brought up that I guess it's a website that does articles. Okay, I guess I'm not gonna use that name because my grandfather, Ed Kuya was his name. And yeah, I love to bring up his name because that man was he was a good man. He was a great man. Um, he passed away a long time ago, but sorry, he was a good man, and he was a usher for the Boy Scouts at the stadium. Um, for like 30 something years. His twin sons played for the university. Were recruited by Milt Tenniper, and then I'll never forget because I went to the football camp the year before. Frank had to make all the uh, coaching changes, and then I went to the year after he made all the coaching changes. So I went to the football camp before, and somehow, like legit, just by luck, me and my brother, my younger brother, got put on the team of Milt Tenniper. And so like I walked up to Milt Tenniper and I walked up to him and said, "Hey, my name is Jason, last name excluded." And I said, "Hey, my uncles are Ken and Kim, last name excluded." And he went, "Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah. They were big time football players out of Fairbury, Nebraska." And he remembered him. Even that like, so I would have gone in like 2002, 2003, somewhere there, I guess. So initially that would have been 2002, right? So after the 2001, or no, it would have been, yeah, after the 2001 national championship year, going into the odd 2002 year. Uh, and Milt still remembered my uncles. That's awesome, man. I remember being a kid and my grandfather took me up to the coach's offices so I could see the national championship trophy. Introduced me to then. Um, I just I'm deep rooted into this program, even though like I only lived in Lincoln technically for like 2.5, 3 years. But literally like my whole family on both sides still live there. Um, I love this university. Forever I will bleed for this university. I think everybody sees all this stuff behind me. Like, and I'll do everything. This is my identity. Uh, so yeah. So today on this episode, what I'm gonna do is just kind of talk about, like I said, this is called preseason chatter. Kind of give my overview on a bunch of stuff. And then I'm gonna say probably next week I'll start diving more into our specific opponent, which would be Cincinnati. I've already started doing some research on them, start watching some podcasts and doing stuff like that. But this week, today's show, what I'm going to do on Big Red Nation is just kind of get my overview on just like not just this team and what I've been hearing going into this football season, my thoughts on a lot of that stuff, but just in college football in general. You know, if I want to start, let's just go ahead and go on. Let's start with some preseason polls, shall we? All right. Let's start preseason polls. I don't hate preseason polls, okay, because it does give us something to talk about. What I hate about it is this, and somebody I think that agrees with me is Ravi Eula from Hale Varsity Herd Sports. I remember listening to him one morning whenever the coaches poll came out, and I was like, oh, Ravi, or spirit animal, okay. So Ravi started bringing up the whole fact that the maybe not the biggest problem with this preseason polls, but one of them that really angers him or creates this generation of anger, I don't know, whatever I want to say. This anger is building up because of these preseason polls, because it's this Aura Bora, right? This just continuous, they feed into each other. So, all right, I can put this down here. Can you guys still hear me? Hold on. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? All right. So it's Aura Bora, right? So everybody feeds into each other whenever it comes to the SEC. So the SEC constantly throughout the season argues that, hey, we have the hardest schedule. Why? Because we see all these ranked opponents. Well, okay, well, how do you get all these ranked opponents? Regardless of your record, regardless of what you guys do in the season. Well, whenever you guys have the SEC getting 9 people preseason ranked, regardless if you deserve it or not. You have, let's just say you get 9 of your teams ranked in the preseason. Okay, well, yes. After like 2 preseason games to start, right? Because you guys only have, well, no, you guys usually have 4 total non-conference opponents. After 2 to 3 weak ass, and I'll give your dues, okay? If anybody wants to come up here on the comments or do whatever, say, well, Alabama plays this people, Texas plays Ohio State, Georgia will play this team randomly sometimes. Okay, sure, yes, every once in a while, but the SEC almost has to do that because the other 3 out of those 4 teams that they will play non-conference are not just like other weaker Power 4 teams, but will be nothing but Group of 5 or FCS teams. Right? You'll play Citadel. You'll play Colgate. Okay? I only thought that was a toothpaste brand. Okay? You'll play, I don't know, South Alabama, Alabama A&M, Grambling. I mean, I'm not trying to shit on these programs, but meanwhile, like maybe the weakest opponent of, and I'm only going to talk about the top tier Big Ten teams. Okay. And look, Nebraska right now this season, even Nebraska fans are shitting on the Houston Christian game, okay? So don't come into the comments start saying, "Oh, you guys are playing Houston Christian." Yeah, I know, and it's bad. That's bad. Okay? But, usually as a whole, Big Ten is still playing like Fresno. They're playing like a Sun Belt, a MAC, Mountain West, something like that. Sometimes it will go further down. But even sometimes, some of those FCS teams that they're going to play are like South Dakota State, North Dakota State, Montana. Uh, some of those teams are like, they could get moved up if they really wanted to from FCS to FBS. But here's the one thing that Big Ten doesn't have over the SEC. SEC has that media backing to just keep turning out the bullshit of the regular season's so tough because they played a bunch of ranked teams. Okay. Because they all got ranked in the preseason. Regardless if they earned that or not. And I think after last season, seeing a lot of these teams getting not just left out of the playoffs, but then getting beat in the bowl game. And to be honest, if we're just going to talk about SEC and Big Ten, these SEC teams were getting beat by Big Ten teams. Illinois, Michigan, come on. Illinois beat South Carolina in a bowl game. And this was a bowl game that not like both teams had a bunch of guys who were about to go first round in the NFL. So it's not like there was a ton of – you can't sit there and go, well, South Carolina had a bunch of guys that were going round one, so they all dropped out of the game. No, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. And Illinois beat them. Michigan had a down year until they beat Ohio State, but then guess what? They also beat Alabama. I don't remember the record specifically, but I want to say it was like 5-1 or 4-2 or something like that when it was Big Ten versus SEC in the bowl games. And then now back to back, Big Ten won the national championship. But look at this year's preseason rankings. Okay. Big Ten didn't get the benefit of the doubt with a lot of guys in like that mid to lower range. SEC got all that benefit of the doubt again. So, I mean, to be honest, like, I'm not kudos to the SEC. You guys keep that shit rolling. And that's awesome. Congrats that you guys can kind of keep that going. I wish the Big Ten could start doing that. Because I think right now they deserve that recognition because I do think they are the better conference. The thing that's tricky about the Big Ten conference, and I always kind of thought that going into the conference whenever Nebraska was entering back in 2011. But since we have been in the conference, I feel like some pundits, local media, maybe aren't willing to talk about this as much, but I will. This is a weird conference because there are a lot of not very good programs, but those not very good programs will beat the good programs all the time. And I think it has to do with how historical this program is or this conference is. So any given Saturday, anybody can beat anybody in this conference. Northwestern, okay, for some weird reason, is a rival to Nebraska. And in Scott Frost last year in 2022, we went to Ireland to face Northwestern. And we were Northwestern's only win of that year. Huh? Only in the Big Ten. Only in the Big Ten. Like even in the SEC, right? Where they decide like we're the best conference. We're the toughest from top to bottom. Okay, when have you ever had a season where the team that only won one game all year was a conference game? Probably never. To be honest, I don't think that ever happened in any conference. I don't think. I don't know. I haven't researched that. Probably should have, but I haven't. So I don't think it's happened ever in any conference. But it happened here. And of course, it happened against Nebraska, because of course. Um, but like that's the type of conference we have in the Big Ten, right? I remember and I don't remember specifically the year, but I remember one year was like Ohio State versus Iowa. And I think I was just like a really kind of random decent team, but not like a great team or like fighting for conference uh championships or anything like that. And like Iowa State whooped the shit out of Ohio State, or Iowa whooped the shit out of Ohio State somehow. Again, I don't remember the specific year or anything, just kind of off the top of my head. I'm just kind of thinking of that. But like this is the conference that does that. So whenever I think top to bottom, are we all ranked? No, because SEC gets all the rankings preseason. That's just what happens. Because media and you know coaches, even though it's never the coaches, always like their secretaries or whatever that's doing that, will just rank because that's what we're told to rank. We're told the SEC or is just that dominant. Um, but yeah, I just think that's crazy. At some point, I think the Big Ten should start getting those rankings. You would think after the last two seasons, the Big Ten would start getting those benefit of the doubt rankings. And no, this is not me saying like I think Nebraska should be ranked this year. No, you don't have the history over the last 10 years that we have had and get preseason ranked. I think whenever we started doing that was 2019, Scott Frost second year. I mean, like I'm not gonna poo poo on it and say, oh, what are we ranked? No, I'm gonna dive in. Like, hell yeah, I'm the type of fan that's gonna be optimistic. Okay, every year I'm gonna go, why not us? Okay, my grandfather, my dad, part of the Optimist Club there in Nebraska, so maybe that's kind of rubbed off on me. I'm gonna be the ultimate optimist. I mean, I'll be an optimist, but I'm also gonna kind of be realistic to a point. So I'm gonna be optimistic because my hopes and dreams are gonna be this. Now, if you were to sit me down and say, okay, but what are your like real thoughts? Here's my real thoughts. But as a fan, why not be optimistic? Why not just like give yourself up to hope and enjoy the hype, enjoy the fun, enjoy getting lost in the sauce. The sauce being, you know, uh, getting hyped up and thinking your team's going to be really good. That might be the only time all season you really feel good. So I don't understand why fans don't want to feel that way. I don't know. I just I will always be an optimistic fan during the off season. How about that? I'm always going to go in thinking this team's going to be good. Because one thing that I really do hate is hearing, not just from journalists or the podcasters or whatever, but the actual journalists from Nebraska. And whenever I hear like, okay, let's just say maybe not for Cincinnati, but Michigan, right? Because that's going to be the first conference game. So there's no specific instance of this as of right now that I can think of. But let's just say we're going to go play in Michigan, or there's journalists, podcasters, radio personalities that are talking about that game. And they start going, well, Bryce Underwood's really good. Michigan's always going to have 5 and 4 stars all up and down that roster and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. So, they're going to be dominant again and they're just going to be loaded and reloaded. Okay. Oh, look. Go look back at a bunch of our fucking recruiting classes. I'm not trying to say they're as top notch as Michigan's, but what I can't stand is whenever our own people basically don't even put into consideration the development year to year of our players under our coaches, but then we'll dissect our opponents and think, well, automatic. They'll be better. Okay, well, why wouldn't we be better? We've got coaches. We've got a strength and conditioning team. Think we're not going to get better? I mean, perfect examples are defensive line. I've heard on many podcasts, many radio station interviews and everything, articles, whatever. A big question mark is Nebraska's defensive line. Oh, okay. You mean like RVP, Riley Von Poppel. Riley Von Poppel. Dude is a stud. He's a little bit of Nash, a little bit of Ty, all wrapped in one. And this dude was so good that his first 2 years, and I know one was a little more limited due to his kind of redshirting, but his first 2 years is very much replicant of Jared Crick. But I think his style of play is a little more endemic than Sue. Maybe not as good, okay? But Sue, think about it. Sue was not that at freshman, even junior or sophomore year. It was kind of like halfway to third quarter of the way in his junior year, he really started shining. And then his senior year, he was dominant as crazy. Maybe one of the most dominant D tackles of all time in college football. Even more so than Warren Sapp or anybody else. And with Riley, we're already seeing it his freshman year. He was already that dominant his freshman year. I know he didn't play a ton his freshman year, but we started seeing it in glimpses. Those type of same glimpses, we didn't see that from Sue. And then last year, he was purposely redshirted because we knew we already had Nash and Ty. We had a couple other good backups. So we're like, okay, look, Riley, we're going to redshirt you. Because we already know we have this and this, so we don't want to waste a year of eligibility while we still have these 4 plus maybe a 5th game on this year. And then next year, you will place them and build on that. And he bought in. And he said, okay, no problem. All right. So somebody that's willing to do that, that's awesome, especially in this day and age. He could have left. He could have went and took money somewhere else. And he didn't. He stayed right here. That has me excited. Keona Davis, Jordan Ochoa, Williams Nwarni, Cam Linhart, Elijah Judy. I mean, how is this D line going to be bad? I mean, I know we understand. We don't have proof that they're going to be good or dominant. I get that. But if you're a fan, how are you saying that they're going to be bad? We know they're talented. And now our defensive line coach is a dude that's been coaching one of the best defensive lines in the NFL for a long time. I know he wasn't the sole guy, but in the NFL, it's not about the head guy. It's about his assistants that trickle down that make him look good. Terry Braden was one of those guys that made him look good. He's going to be the guy here. I just don't ever understand why we always have to look at our team like we will never grow, never be better, never develop. But whenever we start talking about our opponents, oh, they're clearly going to develop year after year. Okay, well, why not us? Why not us? Why can't we develop? I'm not saying every year we have fully developed. We've had players that just don't develop. I agree. Okay. But I also think we've had a lot of coaching staffs that weren't great. I think the last good staff we had was under Bell. I think Bill Callahan's staff was okay. I think Frank Solich's staff in 03, it's very underrated. I think Barney Cotton was one of the best offensive line coaches I ever got to learn under whenever I went to the football camp. I got to learn under Barney. My high school offensive line coach was an offensive line genius for high school coaches. His name was Lance Jarman. Not at my high school, but the high school that he moved to my high school from, Catholic High School in Springfield, Missouri. He had a guy go on to play for the Texans. He was. I remember learning a bunch from him, and then going to the Nebraska camp and learning under Barney, and went, "Oh, okay, yeah, no. Okay." Like it just kind of clicked for me. Everything I learned from Coach Jarman in high school really started kind of coming into play because of what I was learning under Coach Cott. And at that time, I would have been going up against guys like Mike Huff, Mike Mowdy, Andy Christensen, on the offensive line. On the defensive line, I remember going to camp with Zach Potter. Who else that year? Oh, on the offensive line, I remember going to camp with Light Murtha. Tight ends with Josh Mueller. Something like that. Yeah. Because I was also doing some tight end stuff. So yeah, like those kind of guys, that era is kind of what I was dealing with. But yeah, hold on. All right. So that's what I'm going to pull up. My next rant on this offseason. It's something brand new. So I just saw today on X from On3. And if I'm part of Husker Online, I'm Sean Callahan, I'm Steve Sipple, Robin Washit. I'm probably starting to hate my company, my bosses. Between Ari Wasserman talking about that whole bullshit Matt Rule thing. Okay, about I wish there was 30 teams so we could all get in on the playoffs. Okay, out of context, stupid shit, bullshit. But today, Andy Staples, and usually I like Andy, but now you're gonna come out the Blue Bloods thing, and you're gonna leave out Nebraska, and see Nebraska didn't win titles in multiple eras. And then you're going to divide your eras of like, what was it, 1906 to 1936 or 1956 or something like that. And then 56 through 06 or something like what eras is that? Who says that those are the two eras? Nebraska won back-to-back titles in 70 and 71, and then 3 titles in 94, 95, and 97. And then on top of that, regardless of the titles, we've been dominant in many eras. Maybe not win titles, that's fine. I can get that. But we have been a top 10 to top 5 program in so many years, so many eras. I'm not going to go into every detail because it's not worth it, especially not on this type of program, because guess what? I'm preaching to the choir. I understand everybody here that's going to be watching this knows about all the conference titles in a row, all the bowl appearances in a row, the bowl championships, the 9+ wins, the 10+ wins in a year, all that stuff, all the multiple pro draft or the NFL draft, first rounders, the NFL draft, the bowl players, blah, 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 all the shit that goes along with being one of the most dominant programs of all time. Nebraska is that. But in this day and age, I think at the same, whenever we get a lot of the praise from these national pundits for no reason, just to get clicks, I think sometimes people come out like with this shit, just like Andy Staples did with this, to get us upset, to get us clicking on it, get us talking about it, get us doing this type of stuff. I know that, but this one pisses me off because there's no excuse. There's just not. You're gonna say Nebraska's not a fucking blue blood? How? How? I mean, I get, people from the outside might want to say stuff like, well, there were teams like Minnesota that were winning championships nonstop between 9:05 and 9:15. Yeah, no kidding. But again, haven't done anything since. That's fine. But they might be unrecognized, but Nebraska was doing stuff in the 1900s, the 20s, and the 30s, and then had a rut. And then Coach Devaney came in, won us 2 national championships, took us on a 10-year run that was very dominant. Okay, won 2 national championships, and then bridged us on to being one of the most dominant programs of all time. Okay, from the 70s to the 90s, early 2000s, we were the most dominant programs of all time. won 3 national championships, won non-stop conference championships, went to, 49 straight bowl games. Okay. I know we won 94, 95, 97. Should have won 99. We went to 2001. Shouldn't have won that, but we did go there. Should have won 83. Should have won in 93. We were very close to going to 96. Okay. We don't lose Arizona State. We're probably going to 96. There's a couple other years were pretty good, but it had some down years, no doubt. I mean, name it outside of Alabama's run here under Nick Saban. Who else had a run like that? Not USC under Pete Carroll, not Ohio State under Meyer, not Florida under Meyer. Name another university, another program that was as dominant as Nebraska was from 71 to 2001. You're not going to find one. But we're not a blue blood. Okay? You mean the blue blood that back in the day that beat the Newt Rockney Four Horsemen? The blue, a team that beat the Michigan back in the day, Minnesota back in the day when they were tough as hell. Back when those teams were winning national championships, we beat them. They came in our house, we beat them. We went to their house, we beat them. I might have to do a little more research to know, but them come a running boys beat them. But we're not blue blood. Okay, Andy Staples. Okay. Now look, I'm never going to be that guy that's going to hold up too much of that stuff and get too personal about that, but that one just kind of took me over the edge a little bit. So, anyway, so yeah, this channel, man, I'm just gonna love getting on here talking about Husker football because I love it. And to be honest with you guys, I'm probably gonna go on here talk about Husker volleyball. Whenever we get to basketball season, we'll talk about men's and women's basketball. Probably gonna talk about softball and baseball. Maybe not all the time, but I might get on here once a week or 2 times a week or however it goes, and just chat about it, go over it, talk about what our standing is and how it's going. Because I just love Husker athletics. I love the state. I love the city. I love the university. I never went there, but like I said, my grandfather was an usher for many years, many decades. I had uncles that played there. All my family went there. Even like I had cousins that went there. For me, it's always it's a place that reminds me of home. Okay. I was born there in Lincoln. I was born at St. Elizabeth Hospital. So it's my home away from home. I love going back. I miss being able to go back to Fairbury. I had family that lived in Broken Bow, Grand Island, St. Paul, York, Endicott, Crete, like I said, Fairbury, Lincoln. So I had a lot of family live kind of across the state, a lot of small towns, a lot of farm towns. So a lot of this stuff got instilled in me. And I love everything about that state. I'd move back there in a heartbeat if my wife would let me. Yeah. Can't wait for this football season, man. And I can't wait to go over this full blown season with everybody. Can't wait to start this channel and really get going and diving in. Week after week, talking about all these games. My plan going forward would be, if not right after the game, maybe that Monday. Probably won't do the Sunday because I know there's already enough people doing the Sunday morning stuff, and then Sunday afternoon. I'm going to be watching my Texans playing the NFL. Go Texans. I lived in Houston for a while, so I'm a big Texans fan. CJ Stroud, one of our rivals. I know, tough, but dude's a badass, so I'm glad he's on my team. So probably won't do Sunday stuff. But Monday might be a review show, kind of overcapping and talking about the game previous, and then maybe midweek somewhere. Don't know when. I might kind of do kind of not a preview game, not a prediction game, just kind of overview show. Kind of what I'm hearing, talking about the news, talking about what I'm hearing from the opponent's side whenever I watch their podcasts or their news channels, read their articles, but also about ours. And then Friday or the night before the game. So let's say coming up, Cincinnati's first game, right? That's Thursday. So that would happen on a Wednesday night where I give an actual prediction of the game type show. Later on in the season, we play Minnesota on Friday night. So a Thursday night, I would give that prediction show kind of thing. But for the rest of the year, it would happen on a Friday night. And then, like I said, I would review the game and get my reaction to the game probably on a Monday night, which is where we're here right now. It's Monday night. Let's see here. What else would I want to talk about? Man, there's so many things, to be honest with you. Let's talk about this defense. What I was talking about earlier was why not? Like, why can't our players progress? Like, why can't our pundits, if you will, recognize that our players can progress? And I'm of the belief that, yes, of course they can. And I believe that right now they're dealing with better coaches than they had in the last 2 years. Terry Braden, Phil Simpson, Phil Snow, and then I think our coordinator, John Butler, I think is better than Tony White. Overall, I do. So why can't they progress? And I think they will. I personally think Riley Von Poppel will be one of the biggest names in the country. On top of that, I think Williams Nwani will be one of the biggest names in the country by the end of the year. I think a lot of them are going to grow. I think Elijah Judy is going to be just kind of like a very good pick, like stop and play type of guy. He's going to be able to plug him in there. Going to be good. Going to be just solid player. He's going to make a lot of like stops, be on the stat sheet. Probably not. I just think he's going to be very solid plug and play type player. Linebackers. Willis McGahee, Vincent Shavers. I think they're both going to fight for some type of Big Ten conference team at the end of the year. Could be honorable mention, could be 13, could be first team. I don't know. I just think they're going to be that kind of caliber player by the end of the year that they're going to fight to get on their positions. I think Javin Wright is going to be decent. I don't think he's gonna be anything better than John Bullock was last year. Like I don't think he's gonna be this like astronomically amazing player that's gonna go get drafted. Might get signed, undrafted, free agent type of guy, but I don't think he's being amazing, but he's gonna be very serviceable and very good. I think in the secondary, by the end of the year, Donovan Jones, Caleb Benning will be two of the top dudes getting a lot of playing time. I think Andrew Marshall, Sierra Wright will be the other two. I think Deshaun Singleton, we will see the resurgence of the sophomore year Deshaun Singleton that we all went, oh, like week after week 4. That dude's going to come in and lay the heat. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to kind of be that mix of like, not comparing him to, just saying style of, like an Ed Reed or an Earl Thomas, where the dude is just coming in downhill, beating dudes up in the run game. If you're going to go across the center, but maybe it's a little bit more deeper across, he's going to get you. He might let a couple times somebody kind of give him that double move and go. That might happen. That might happen a lot. Hopefully it won't, but it might. But I think coming into run game or short crossing routes, that dude's got to lay some heat. And I just think he's going to be pretty good. On the offensive side, I think Emmett will be fine. He's going to be very serviceable. I think he's probably going to get overall both receptions and running 27 touches a game. I think Malachi Nelson is going to be right behind him with about 10 to 12. I think Isaiah Mosey is going to get about 5 to 6. I think our starting tight end will be Heinrich Haarberg, and trust me on this. This will be my big prediction of the season going in. Heinrich Haarberg will get drafted 3rd round as a tight end. I think Heinrich Haarberg is going to be a legit stud and a weapon for this program. And I think Dylan will cement himself by the end of the year to be a Heisman candidate next season. Not saying he's going to be a top guy or like one of the top 3 or 4 guys. I just think kind of like after Adrian's freshman year where he kind of randomly got thrown up there, I think Dylan will kind of get thrown up there. Now, what he does with that, who knows? We'll have to see how this season goes. But I do think Dylan Raiola will be considered with some Heisman hype going into next season. If you want to hold my hands behind my back, put the gun in my head, here's my one prediction. Dylan Raiola will finish the season 71% completion percentage. And we'll have a 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio by the end of the year. Those will be his stats. Okay? Those will be his stats. All right, everybody, we're going to head on out. I hope we'll get a bunch of people subscribing, liking, sharing these videos. This is going to be my thing, man. I love this stuff so much. I love Husker football. Love Husker athletics. I really hope this starts catching on. Please like, share, follow. Right here, this right here. This is my X account. Please go look it up. Please go follow it. I'll be tweeting along to Husker football games. I might try to do a little watch alongs or shoot little videos here and there. Like I said, maybe I'm hoping to maybe do quick gut check reactions right after the game. But more than likely, it'll be Mondays when I write do actual reaction reviews of the games this season. But please, like, give me a like, give me a follow. This is what I want to do. Going forward, I can only get better. I can only move this forward with more likes, more subscribers, more followers. So please do that if you can. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, Big Red Nation, go Big Red